Testing stream audio. Testing stream audio. Testing stream audio. Testing stream audio. Testing 1, 2, 3. Looks like we're good here. All right. Looks like we're good here. All right. Testing audio. Check 1, 2, 3. Audio. Check 1. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Welcome in to Fimorth on Twitch and Better Done Right on YouTube. We're dual streaming tonight. We are on the big webcam, we'll call it, and we still have the same lighting for the webcam test that I have ongoing. But today, the retro stream PC is running on a different GPU because this guy needs cleaning. It actually is remarkably clean, but I think the thermal paste has gone bad. And if I use that GPU at stock settings, it'll hit its upper thermal limit and the fans ramp up, and it's very obnoxious. It's very loud, and then it just cycles on and off every few seconds. So we're going to get into that. That really needs to get done to really complete the retro PC that the monitor is sitting on right here. Give you a peek of that just in case you have not seen it. Bring down a little secondary camera here. So this is a modern case. This is a Silverstone FPL 01, I believe. And I love it to death. It gives me so much nostalgia for the 90s, really the early 2000s. But that case has its had its own progress and process of putting it together. I streamed that whole process, and now to complete the build, we need to work on this graphics card. So we're going to swap to both cam view here. Tilt it up a little bit. That's not too bad. And then microphone will have to sit off to the side a little bit so we can get this all to work. Let's throw keyboard up there. And so this is, I don't think this is technically something that I have done before, but I do have a little bit of confidence that I should be able to do this. So I have some tools. I have an iFixit toolkit. This is many, many years old now at this point, but it does have some of the tools that I will need. I have some halfway decent thermal compound. This is what we will repaste the GPU die with. And then I do have some thermal pad material, and I should probably grab some alcohol to clean with, and something else as well. So I will grab those two real quick. I actually can't remember what else it was, but we'll get there. Grab it. Oh, scissors. There we go. Okay. So to get started here, we need to open up this GPU, and inside of this toolkit, we do have a variety of tools, different kind of plastic prying tools. We have an electrostatic wrist strap, suction cup, some tweezers and different things for opening displays and bezels and things, but really what we're going to deal with is going to be this screwdriver kit, I'm thinking, for the most part. So let's keep that handy. And this has a metal back plate, and looking at it from the top down here, or even from the side, to me it looks bowed, and that's maybe just how it's built, but I'm concerned that maybe it is part of the problem. So I'm going to take a quick look around this and get kind of an eyeball on what we've got going on. So we do have fan ports or fan plugs on probably either side, though one might be an LED light to power the logo if that lights up. So flipping this to the back, we have some screws for the back plate. Let's swap this over here. There. That should work pretty well. Okay, so getting into this, we have a screwdriver set, and I will just pick one that seems to work well. That seems to fit reasonably well, so we'll give that a shot. Nice thing is this lid can be used to hold screws. There are different length screws here, which could be a concern, or even different size like screw heads. So I'm going to try to pay attention to that, and if it gets really if it gets to being a major problem, then I'll probably have to start writing it down. Since I can't review the video live. But these 4 screws right in the middle here, they do have a spring attached to them, so I'm assuming there's some kind of thermal interface that those connect to. And we've got those 6 screws out. And looking at it, there might be 3 that come from the other side. So I think we've done all we can do there. Now I'm trying to spot where I can disconnect the fan shroud. It looks like I can disconnect the rear IO shield a few different ways. So that will probably need to happen. Yes, looks like it will. I'm going to keep going with the fan. And I'm starting to get the feeling that I am going to run into problems with all these different size screws pretty quickly. But at least these so far have all been different. The ones in the plastic shroud up here have a much more aggressive thread. So that tells me it probably just screws into plastic. So let's see if this can come free at all. I'm going to turn up my threshold just a little bit. And actually, the part of the fan is already ready to come off. That is a little bit surprising. So I'm actually curious. Okay. So it must be able to come off separately. I maybe didn't even need to remove the backplate screws. No, I did. I did, for sure. Okay, so it's catching there. I'd like to remove this the rest of the way. Okay, it looks like we have some screws that sit with the fans, the fan blades. Two. I'm really excited for the days when it really starts cooling down a little bit and I don't have to run a fan in the background. Maybe one of these other streams will also fix that fan, because currently that fan can't function in its lowest speed. So this, so far, might be a dead end. This seems to just release the fans itself, which kind of makes sense. But I do want to pull this up and to the side if I'm able. Take a peek under there, and it looks like that doesn't gain me anything, so I am going to put these back. Okay, so continues investigation here. Wow. I'm actually surprised. That was remarkably easy to remove. So it was just stuck on really well. And I had to get a better angle at it to feel like I wasn't flexing the absolute crap out of it. So now you can see the cooler, heatsink for the GPU, all the fins and all the exposed copper pipes. Cool. And then the actual GPU itself. So this is the actual processor, and it's very, very thin. But because it generates a lot of heat, you need all the cooling. So if you had a water cooling block, you could slap that on there and just pass your cooling through here and then send it off to somewhere else. And that would make your GPU a lot thinner, but air cooling is quite nice. So we're just going to stick with that. So as far as I know, I'm not the most experienced with what everything is here, but this is the die. This is the actual like GPU processor. Then there are memory chips to the outside. So depending on, you know, which version you get, let's say you got a version that was lower capacity on the RAM, you would have fewer chips, as far as I understand. I believe this is power delivery. These, I believe, are called MOSFETs, but don't quote me on that. So I'm a noob with actual circuitry and everything, and I'd never know what to do to diagnose an actual problem in here or like even fix it. But I can definitely clean and repaste some thermal paste. So what I probably want to do is clean the surfaces on this and then double check the thickness of these pads versus what I have. I think I got pretty lucky, and it should be similar. It can be really important, the individual thicknesses. And now that I look here at the power delivery thickness for those, it is thicker. So I might leave those and replace the rest, since I do appear to have, well, actually there's 3 thicknesses. These are thin for the memory. The adjacent ones here are 1 thickness, and then the ones that run on top of this are extra thick. And they don't feel very dry. I was expecting this all to feel really dry. So I'm wondering if it was just the thermal paste on the GPU. So we may shoot for gold here and just redo that. It looks like it at least spread really well, but it is very cakey. I should probably try to get you a close-up of that. I did grab some little eye loops. We'll see what we can see here. Yeah, that kind of works. Of course, the auto exposure is going crazy. But yeah, you can see the pattern there. That is very dry and crusty. And then same on the cooler side as well. It is cool to see the exposed copper pipes, though. That is supposed to be a decent way of doing it for heat transfer. So let's clean off the heatsink side, and I'm just using isopropyl alcohol and some tissue paper. You could certainly use something higher quality, lower lint, but this will work fine for us. The alcohol acts as a solvent, and it helps to break down the thermal paste. And then it also is volatile, so it evaporates very quickly and it won't leave much residue. Oops. I rolled that one up. So I think my plan is to apply a fair bit of thermal paste back onto the die, just to fill in all the gaps on these heat pipes, since it's not like a perfectly flat surface. That's reasonably clean. You can see there's a bit of an improvement there. I think I might go ahead and try to scrape out the gunk in between. But that may or may not net us much of anything. So I'm just using some pointy tweezers, and I think this might be worth trying to get a shot of. Actually, I don't think I'll be able to. Maybe if I bring this close this side. Yeah, a little bit. So before I cleaned this, I did take measurements of the performance of this. I used 3D Mark's Nomad test and also got the Unigen superposition. So I do have a couple baselines. The 3D Mark test doesn't last long enough, at least the Nomad one. I think Time Spy lasts a lot longer, but it's an older test. So this wouldn't actually thermal throttle in that time, so I had to use the superposition benchmark because that one actually lasted long enough for me to get to simulate the issues I was having whenever I would stream. Really just play a game. Streaming wasn't too taxing. Just using a small, super small flathead screwdriver bit now. Try to clean out a couple other areas, and then I'll do like a final wipe down on that. We'll peel this thermal pad and replace it in a minute, but I want to at least get the die contact point clean here. Okay, that is reasonably clean. I'm going to peel my thermal pad, which still seems plenty gooey. I think when these just dry out is when they become less effective. So I'll use the rest of this cleaning solution here to clean under that so that the new pad sticks. I believe these thermal pads are non-conductive, and the thermal paste that I have is also non-conductive, so we don't have to be super concerned about our placement in this particular instance. So this is double-sided, so I will peel the one side of the plastic, roughly place this. I might move it down just a little bit. Okay, kind of have that centered. And then I will peel this other side of the plastic. Obviously, that plastic won't work very well for you when you're trying to cool some RAM chips. Give me a little bit of grief here. Doesn't really want to stick. It's wanting to come up with the plastic. If I can get it started somewhere, I should be able to peel. There we go. Make sure there's no air bubbles. I do actually see a couple. Okay, that's reasonable. There's maybe one small air bubble, which I could fix if I grab a small... Actually, my tweezers are sharper, so I could poke through this to that hole, create a small void, small pinhole there, and then I should be able to tap the air out from that pocket. We'll call that good. This will be ready to be mounted. Now let's focus on the die. So same thing again. We'll use our alcohol and some tissue paper. You could use a microfiber towel, maybe a coffee filter, something that's lint-free. That's completely fine. But I find that I can just make a couple passes and make sure that there's no lint. Lint fibers do have a thickness, and that could potentially prevent the down pressure from occurring evenly, or it could create little air pockets and voids around those fibers, and that will become a point of heat buildup. I'm using my plastic scraper over these pins to the side. I don't want to use metal here and accidentally knock any of those loose, those little solder pads. And that is just going to be faster than actually wiping it all off, all the paste off. Okay, let's continue cleaning here. Hi Bong, how are you? Welcome in. It's good to have you in the chat. Electric stuff. Now, what were you hoping for? This is the creme de la creme. This is the best best content on Twitch. To give you an update on what's actually going on here, my GPU from the streaming rig is right here, and it's been having an issue where it's not properly pulling the heat to the heatsink, which we just cleaned over there, and it would get really loud as the fans would ramp up, and it would kind of just cycle on and off, and it was really annoying. So I had to turn the settings down, and it still kind of worked, but it was not ideal. And if the settings ever reset and I don't notice, I won't know until I actually get into the game. Okay, so that's clean. Let's do one final wipe down here. This is our clean pass, if you will. course, I'm leaving all kinds of lint on it. Call it good. Let me try to give you a view of the actual die. They're kind of pretty. Very shiny mirror surface. This is on a 2080, an RTX 2080. Old hardware by today's standards, but it used to be the shit. Hi-fi, good, and you? Also, I totally understand everything you're saying, not being sarcastic. Yeah, no, you're never sarcastic. You can see your future with that shine. It's very, very shiny. Because it's very, very flat. Okay, I've got that done. I'm doing well. I had a bunch of yard work that I did today. It's been better weather, so I've been trying to take advantage of that. And we're going to have a Halloween get-together. So I wanted to get kind of an eyesore cleaned up a little bit. Ooh, I've got the Noctua shit. Okay, so I've got two types of thermal paste in here. And we're going to use the good stuff. Definitely needs the Noctua stuff. And a little spreader knife. So we'll use that. So this is thermal paste. This is a thermal interface material, so it's kind of a goo. It goes on to what's generating heat, and it connects it thermally to, it fills in all the little microscopic gaps, and it's thermally conductive, and it connects it to the actual heat sink or whatever is extracting the heat. So it's a critical step. Air is an insulator, so we want to get rid of all the air that we can. And that's what this paste does for us. So I'm going to squish a decently sized blob. I guess that might be like pea sized. And because I want to be so thorough here, I am going to use this little spudger. I'm going to try to spread this in a thin layer to all of the sides. But I am keeping in mind that there's gaps between the heat pipes, so I may need to apply it to both sides to guarantee good coverage. So I could probably move this a little bit closer. So smart. Yeah, thermal paste. You're learning. It's like toothpaste in its consistency. But I think we'll keep spreading this thin. The thickness is not necessarily a concern here. We just want to avoid air gaps, and we want total coverage. We don't want it to be like obviously thin, like I've kind of done on the edges here. And as I was saying earlier, this is non-conductive. So it's okay if it gets a little bit everywhere. We've actually collected a lot on here. Might try to redistribute some of that. Thank you for dropping in, Bong. Are you going to be streaming later? If not, currently, I think I could take a look at that. Not yet, at least. Okay, I'm going to call that thorough. Now we're going to look at the heatsink side. And I'm going to try to spread a layer thinly over the top just to kind of fill in the gaps between the pipes. I think we're going to need a little bit more maybe to achieve that. Not sure if you're going to stream. I imagine you're probably pretty tired given the schedule you've been keeping lately. How did the rest of your stream go yesterday? This is taking a ton of thermal paste on this side. It's obviously not a mirror finish. So that's probably where all the thermal paste is going. It's all the tiny little microscopic gaps. So that's good. But I don't want to go crazy here. You're exhausted, and it went pretty freaking good. Had some amazing people join the chat, and they kept Helix entertained too. That's great. That is awesome. Yeah, I imagine that could be exhausting. Streaming that late. Living on the American sleep schedule. Not even that. You've been staying up later than I stay up. What the heck? Okay, I think we're winning here. So I'm going to put these to the side. Clean that later. Okay, so we replaced our one pad that I kind of scuffed up. The other pads are looking like they're in decent shape, so we're going to leave those alone. Mostly because I thought I had more thicknesses of thermal pads, but I couldn't find them easily. And the one thickness I do have looks similar to the memory chip pads, but not the VRMs. So we're going to leave those alone since they're still sticky. So now we need to line this up. And we probably also need to install the fans. So this will be a little bit tricky. I don't want to misalign this, so I'm going to install this back fan. Good. Try to get the front fan here. Good. Now I'm going to try to align these little tabs that kind of pass through for the screws. Try to line a couple of those. And then settle this down here. Make sure that aligns from the back side. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure kind of to the middle of the back plate to try to squish it down. Squish the thermal paste. I don't want to take this apart because I'll have to repaste or redistribute the paste, because pulling it apart even a little bit could introduce air bubbles that may or may not get squeezed out. So I'm going to install the screws, and the way I'm installing these screws is just getting them started to where they catch. These do have the little springs in them. And then we're going to do a cross pattern as we tighten this so that not one side receives all the pressure. All of this is actually so interesting. The American sleep schedule is messing me up a little, but we move. Well, at least you have a way of making this work. Hello, first time chatter from Link4Hunter. Nice. Now download RAM. I can't download it like this. I have to get it powered on. But you just missed when we had the RAM exposed. But yeah, we are cleaning, repasting an RTX 2080. This is the GPU that has been in my retro streaming PC. And it has been overheating. Break the RAM stick in two, then you have double the RAM. I would just have 2 pieces of RAM. Silly. Okay, so we're going in a cross pattern here. So tightening a little bit on one side, skipping kind of diagonal to the other, and then going across. You don't want to tighten these all the way down, all in one go, because you may pinch down on one side. And then I'm tightening these until they stop. They do have that little spring in there. They also have a shoulder on the tiny screw. So that shoulder needs to stop on the edge there. So I've gotten that tight. So now we can pick this up and take a peek. I'm looking at my WAM chips right there and the thermal pads. But you can't quite tell very easily for you guys. But that little white pad on top of those chips is the one in question, so I'm just trying to make sure those have good contact. Looks like it does. And I just noticed that there's another pad on the back side of the GPU die. I guess that makes sense, but it's not something I really paid attention to, and it's much, much too thick for what I have to, even if I like layered it, which is probably not a good idea. So I am gonna stick my spudger in there, and it seems like it's still just like all the other ones, nice and gummy, so it must be working just fine. So I think we've done pretty good here. Not too bad for my first time. Also changed your GPU a few months ago since your old GPU got hotter, even though you changed the thermal paste. Okay, so hopefully this actually fixes it then, and it won't be like yours. I did downclock it, maybe 10%, and that stopped it running into the, oh my god, that's a hell of an upgrade. 1080 Ti to the 5070 Ti. Yeah, that's a nice upgrade right there. The 5070 Ti is hell of a GPU today. Obviously it's modern, but like even in the grand scheme of things, that's still a really good GPU. Good for you, that's awesome. Okay, we got the last 3 attached on the back plate. I did notice this one seemed awfully loose when I took it out. So I doubt that really had a huge impact, but it's worth hoping for, at least. And then we took out 4 more screws that I had not quite needed to do. So we're coming down to a conundrum, and maybe you guys can help me sort this out. Haha. Need to change back GPUs. I understand, but to be fair, you could just downclock to the 1080 Ti performance and it's probably more efficient. I kind of thought about that. I put an older GPU in a server and I was like, oh yeah, older GPU, less power draw. And I was like, well, maybe not. They're less efficient. So I may actually not be solving much of a problem there. But I think we're done here. I think we've won, at least with the goal of what I was trying to do. Potentially we're dealing with a different problem, like maybe Link has encountered. but looking at the thermal paste, it did seem fairly dried out, and this is a fairly old GPU, being a 2080, so this would have been, when did these come out? Mid 2000s maybe? I think I could take a look here. $2080 release. I don't even think this is a 2080 Super. So 2018, September 2018 is when this was released. So it's a solid 7 years old, and I would imagine thermal paste only lasts a few years. Okay, you said you're currently having problems with Helldivers 2. The developers rather solve the problem of size on PC instead of the performance issues. That's totally fair. I have a 9070 XT in my gaming rig, and it gets me by. I'm not willing to pay NVIDIA prices, at least at the time that I bought that GPU, and it keeps up reasonably well. But I downloaded Fortnite to play with a few friends, and it ran like crap. I was actually astounded how poorly it ran. It just seemed like the frame pacing was off, like there was stuttering. And I turned the resolution down. I did all the little tricks, turned off anything post-processing, motion blur and things like that. And I couldn't get it to run in a way that I was happy. So I will be curious if on older hardware it may work better on the stream PC. So I may re-download. I uninstalled it. I rage quit and uninstalled it pretty quickly. Bong says Fortnite. I have been known to play Fortnite. I saw that you were playing it with Helix. I saw your story. I haven't played since Halo crossover. I can play for an hour or a minute. The whole PC freezes up, and you have to hard reset it. That's bullshit. That sucks. So I'm editing a video that relates to an old camera I had, and it would hard freeze. It had a power issue for how I had it set up. Under normal conditions, it worked fine. I was just pushing it. And the way I wanted to use it, it would say low battery. It would say it was still recording, and then even the power button wouldn't work. I had to literally, like your hard reset that you have to do on your PC, I had to pull power to actually get it to stop. And sometimes it would still actually be recording, and sometimes it wasn't actually recording. So that was a whole weird thing. And you're not the only one having the problem with it. Some people have found that it causes some spikes on the CPU. So then, okay, so you're saying you upgraded your GPU. Since your old GPU got hotter, even though you try to do the thermal paste. Okay, so you're probably thermal throttling on the 1080 Ti. But even with the 5070 Ti, you are still having problems, or at least you're currently having problems with the 5870 Ti. That sucks. So could it be a CPU problem, maybe? I'm sure you've updated your drivers. I'm sure other games probably aren't doing that, or it's just the game that you play, you want it to work. That's frustrating. So I had problems with Valheim. Valheim's my favorite game, and it's the only game that I've played on this channel recently. I used to stream a little bit of sim racing, and we'll get back to sim racing. I've got a lot of plans there, but I had a lot of trouble on the big computer, which has an ultra wide, so the formatting's different. The game's not probably expecting that, and I had to do a bunch of little tricks. I think it was like running it in windowed, borderless windowed, I actually forget, there's like 4 or 5 different steps you had to do, even in the Steam launch settings. And it made a huge difference. It was like 90 FPS when it wasn't working well, like minimum settings. And then when it was working well, I would get like 110 FPS with much higher settings. And the difference, like the 90 didn't feel smooth. It didn't even feel like 40 FPS. It was just so stuttery. So I was really, really impressed by that. But yeah, if you're having problems and other people are having them, maybe there haven't been any fixes yet. But some people have found that it causes spikes on the CPU. Interesting. Yeah, that's crappy when they don't do the updates that matter. The ones that you need. Okay, so we got the GPU cleaned. That went much, much quicker than I was expecting. I don't think we've even... Yeah, we haven't even hit an hour here. So I did have something else planned, because I don't really want to just take the in stream necessarily and put the GPU back. And we're doing pretty well, since we're CPU encoding here. We're doing decently. So I'm considering... Hey! We have some viewers on YouTube, which means I've got to figure out...
This is a story about a magical place.
Thanks
where
for the
everything's
ad,
amazing.
YouTube. Here we go. Now I can see both chats. Fantastic. So we have Dantith. That's funny. What GPU is that? I don't have a timestamp and don't know. See, I don't know if you're still in chat, but if you hadn't heard, this is the 2080, the RTX 2080 from NVIDIA. Is it normal to take it apart? I think it is. I used to crypto mine. I mined Ethereum on GPUs, kind of maybe 6 months, 8 to 6 months before they moved to proof of stake. And that's when I bought a bunch of these thermal pads and different things. And it seemed normal to me at the time that running GPUs, you know, full tilt, especially on the memory, 24/7 would just wear it all out. So I would say that it's fairly normal. But yeah, no, this was actually really easy to take apart. I didn't watch any tutorials or anything or any teardowns. I just kind of went for it. So we took out a few extra screws that we didn't need to, but it was literally 7 screws on the back, 4 around the die, 3 to the side, and then just kind of carefully working my way around to pop it off. It would separate, and then I could pull the fan plugs or fan and LED plug, and it was really easy. All the thermal pads seemed like they were in really good shape, and I scuffed one up when I was cleaning, so I replaced that one. And I might have been tempted to replace the other ones if I had the right thickness, but you have to have the right thickness, and you can't really stack them because any air voids or air gaps is just terrible. Thank you for the question, Dantith. Okay, link on Twitch. You've reinstalled your PC just to make sure. You have the game with a new GPU for a few months without any issues for the update. Oh, so it was an update. Okay, so maybe it's not hardware bound at all. That makes sense. And you've got an i5 13600KF, 32 gigs of RAM. Nice. I've been AMD for the last... How long? I think I bought in when Ryzen first got released. I had like a 1700X. So I stopped paying attention to the scheme, the hierarchy on Intel's side, and the stream PC has an i7 9700K, and as far as I know, that's mid-tier for its time, mid to upper tier, I guess. When I built my first PC, it was an i5 3570K. Way old. This was 2012 or 2015, something like that when I built that. And I've been building PCs since. So, Link on Twitch says, I've been thinking about switching to AMD next year. Are you thinking like with the Zen 6 architecture and all that stuff? I agree. So I have on my main like gaming and editing rig, I have a Ryzen 9 5950X, which is their 16 thread 32 core CPU. And that thing's been a beast. It's been able to play games decently well, even though it's a few years old now. And the CPU performance for I edit in DaVinci Resolve. I get a little bit crazy on there. I do some 3D modeling in Blender, so I actually use those cores quite a bit, and it's amazing. But I think even the Ryzen, like the Zen 5 stuff, so the R9 like 7800X 3D, the X3D has made a huge impact. And then the instructions per clock performance of even the next generation, it's like my CPU versus another CPU, like the 9800X 3D, they're at par, fully maxed out, even though it has half the cores. Otherwise, it's like a 20% improvement or something like that per core, but totally maxed out. It's like they keep up, which is just crazy. So I'm thinking when Zen 6 comes out next year, I might, if I can stomach it, let it die off a little bit, let the prices die off, and then go ahead and upgrade to Zen 6, whatever that ends up looking like. Then I can get on, I'm still on DDR4 and PCI 4. So my NVMe SSDs are running at 4th generation speed, and my RAM is slower. I have a lot of RAM though, so that's gonna hurt. That's really gonna hurt upgrading that. You said your power supply is also like 8 years old, over 8 years old. Yeah, that'll be a good upgrade. Get yourself a decent power supply. Something 800 to 1,000 watts. Something name brand. Be a good investment. But it's scary though, because it seems like they keep pushing all these new cables. At least Nvidia is pushing all the new power 9,000 watt. Pushing all these new power plugs for the GPUs, but they keep burning up. So it's like, I don't want to be forced to upgrade my power supply. It's just a transformer. That's all it does. Hey, Katie, welcome in. Thanks for stopping by. You missed all the fun. We had a really surprisingly easy time replacing the thermal paste. Oh, you have an all-in-one air cooler that's over 8 years old. Let me grab one. I'll be right back. So this is a Corsair H100i, I believe. It's a 240 millimeter rad. Nothing crazy, and it still works. But I hate the idea of all-in-ones, and this worked fine. But like this was in a server, or I used it as a server, and I was just always worried that it would go bad. So I'm thinking that I'm glad I just put a stock air cooler on there, and it's been fine. So I'm glad I got rid of this. This actually would have ended up in the retro PC, which I don't think anybody's seen yet. So let's take this top down cam. We'll swap this over here. So this is the sleeper build. Not that there's much of a computer inside of it, but this is a modern case. You can actually get this. This is a Silverstone. I believe it's an FPL01. It's maybe 170 US in the United States, but it's awesome. It's just a retro themed case, but it has kind of your modern like power supply placement and decent support. You can't put, there is no like water radiator support. So I actually had a really silly setup where I strapped the cooler to the outside. I think that's still on stream, but I strapped the cooler to the outside of the case. It kind of made me think of like a hood scoop on a supercharged car or something. But I was like, that's not going to work. So I went and spent more money that I didn't really want to, but I got a low profile Noctua air cooler, and it fits in there with clearance, and it's quiet, and it has plenty of thermal room. It's keeping everything nice and cool. I could actually maybe overclock a little bit on it if I really needed to, but I'll show you the really cool feature of this thing. So watch that there. So it has basically a floppy disk door that I mounted a DVD drive behind so I can pop it open, and then it has another floppy disk door that hides the front panel IO, but I can't close that because the main cam is plugged in there. The FPL02, you're saying, okay. Oh, another retro style. Okay. Yeah, I just looked on the local retailer's website to see what I could get, because I just needed a case, and I found that one, and somebody I follow on here, Quilia, she has a retro theme to all of the frames and everything. The whole stream aesthetic is like kind of Windows 95 themed, I think. So I immediately thought of her, knew she would appreciate it, and I was like, it taps into some nostalgia, and I can put my monitor on it as well, so it's space efficient. So I did end up getting that. That was really, really cool. But I will have to check out the FPL02. I would be kind of curious to see. Maybe that's a little bit taller than this one. There's also a key available to lock the power and reset. That's so cool. So I want to get I have a 5-watt laser engraver up on a shelf, and the enclosure I built for it is back behind me. And I want to get that all set up, and we're going to start doing a bunch of kind of maker projects on the laser engraver. But you can get laser engravers now that have little keys to the power supply, so that you can, like if you had kids, make sure they don't accidentally fire the laser or something. So that's really cool. I've always loved the thought of having a key to your electronics. That's super cool. Well, the GPU went really well, and I see, Katie, that you said you're clueless about this stuff, so you're just going to hang out. Thanks for hanging out. Feel free to ask any questions if you do have any. So I have fixed the GPU. Well, we'll test it, but that's probably going to be just an update next stream that I'll mention. And then I am recording a local copy of all of this. So if I do make a video, I can make something more compressed. But we do also have something else that I can try to fix here. This is a Razer Death Adder Elite. I got this in a trade with a buddy at the time, and I love the shape. I think this is just like the perfect shape for my hand. It's a larger mouse, but the click, this click, don't click. This one does, but the other one, you can probably just hear the plastic flexing. It does not click. So I thought maybe we try to take this apart and see if we can fix that click, because I'm using like a $5 mouse here because it works. Because this Zowie BenQ mouse, the scroll doesn't work very well, so maybe we fix the scroll too. So if I play a game that has a scroll wheel, which is almost every game needs a scroll wheel, I have to use this really crappy mouse. It'd be nice to use one of these extra ones. Should have been on all PC cases. Oh, it's $252 for the FPL2? Wow. That's honestly, that's super. Oh, for you. Okay. Where are you based? Are you in Europe? Maybe I know some of the stuff tends to be, well, not necessarily more expensive, but yeah, it depends on where you are. Denmark. Okay. So do you have, I know in the UK they have like VAT, which I'm assuming is like import taxes, and that adds on quite a bit. Do you have something like that that's adding in there? Is like everything kind of inflated that has to be imported? While you respond, I'm going to grab stuff. Put this up maybe. Wow, 25% sales tax. See, I feel bad when it's like 9%. When I bought this case, I was like, there's like $17 of tax. Ugh, tax man's getting me. 25%. But it does go to things, at least. Let me turn my gain down here. I had it up quite a bit because we were farther from the mic. I'll try to be a little more up on the mic now. Yeah, that's rough. That's really rough. And that's all going to be individual. I wonder if your income taxes are scale differently too. If they're just higher than the US, or if maybe they're less. And that's kind of a way it balances out. You had to pay over 1,000. So, what is the currency in Denmark? Would it be euros? Well, you did give me the dollar sign, so I'm assuming you converted that to US dollars. That's a lot of money, because I think they're going for 500 now. Well, the TI. The TI. I was looking at the 5060. So maybe it's like 800 here. The Danish kroner. Very cool. Do you guys have cool stuff on your money? Like, I know Canada has obviously the maple leaf, but they have birds and different things on their bills, and their bills are really cool. They're like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a different texture. It's kind of plasticky, but it like feels really, really nice. American money is boring. It just has a bunch of silly presidents on it. People, bridges, and buildings. That's awesome. Okay. Very cool. All right. So there's just one screw in the bottom here. Throw the GPU up there. Why not? So I have noticed that I've already taken this screw out before once. So maybe I've attempted this repair and it didn't work. What I'm a little bit worried about is maybe it's a shell that's glued shut. And that very well could be the case. If you ever are taking something like this apart, like almost any electronic, they will hide screws under the stickers. So sometimes you have to kind of press and rub your finger around and see if you can find a spot where that screw is. I'm not feeling anything, so it could possibly have screws underneath the skates. So I'll just peel this halfway. Okay. Sweet. So I never investigated there last time. Glad I looked this time. So peel that back a little bit. Ah, you're getting some new coins when the queen steps down. Because you have a king now. Interesting. So you guys have a monarchy. Is it kind of like the British monarchy where they kind of have a say, but kind of don't? They're just like a super respected family that has a degree of power, but kind of don't rule in the same way that they maybe used to. So I showed this kit earlier on the stream, but I'll show you guys again here. Okay, they have no power. That's funny. That's probably good. Monarchies are pretty old school. So this is an iFixit toolkit. iFixit's just a repair brand. You can see the logo there. They do really, really good teardowns and repair videos as well. So sometimes you can even find that kind of support on their website. But they also make tools. This is a really old toolkit. This was $64 when I got it many years ago as a gift. So I don't know what the current pricing is, but you can also mix and match. You can get tool like the screwdriver kits on their own that are pared down, and you can kind of go crazy with it. But this is a pretty reputable brand. I'd recommend it to anybody, but it has the screwdrivers, it has tweezers of different varieties, little kind of spatulas and things to separate cases. These little guitar picks, if you were taking apart like a huge bezel on a laptop or a monitor, you can leave these little chips in there and it stops the plastic from just clicking itself closed, so you can kind of get it all the way around. It has a suction cup for cell phone screens, so you could heat up the screen to release the adhesive and then pull that apart. And then it has these lever tools that I believe they call spudgers, and they've got little hooks in the ends. These are amazing. So I grabbed one of those out. I've taken the 3 screws that I think are involved in this, and now I'm going to try to separate the shell. Normally I would be like 2 inches away from this and really looking at it, but that's not how I have the camera set up. So I'm just trying to see if I can work my way around this without really looking as closely as I normally would. This does not work to me. Like, it's, in my mind, it's broken. It's been sitting in a box for years. So it doesn't matter if I do break it, or at least if it loses functionality or its use as a mouse as it is, because I could still potentially take the internals out and repurpose them. I've had some ideas. I have a 3D printer over there, and we're going to do some 3D printing projects before too long. And one project I want to do is making my own ergonomic mouse, where I model a mouse out of clay, out of plastic clay, and then 3D scan it, and then 3D print it, and then put a mouse inside of my shell, my custom shell. So here is the mouse. All right. So there's the main board, the scroll wheel, the clicks, and looking at it, So I'm testing the actual play and function of these two clicks up top without the actual switches below them, and they seem to be running fine. So it's not like a physical obstruction where it's got like Cheeto dust built up around that. God, why does that look like Cheeto dust? Gross. I am gonna take off these little power plugs here so we can take the shell off and I can show you guys closer up. Get our little macro lens. So there's the mouse in all of its glory. But there's something interesting. So the right click, see that Omron? That's a name brand switch. That's a good switch. The little green thing is the actual switch. This side is weird. It's got something on it. To me, it looks like aluminum tape. So I'm wondering if this has been repaired before. I don't remember fixing it or trying to fix it. So maybe it was the prior owner. So I'm peeling back that metal. Pulled that out. There's a little bit of tape around the outside, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I'm going to collect these now. Yeah. So I think that's what's going on. So if you listen... Sorry, I have to... I don't think you can hear that. Let me turn the threshold off. So now you can hear all the background noise. There you go. So that's the right click. The left click is super dull. And I don't know if it's springing back or not. So, not really sure what to do. It may just be worn out, but honestly, these the switches are rated for like millions of cycles. So I find that a little bit hard to believe, but it's also very possible. I might take the main board off here, which is just a few more screws, and see if I can see the back side of the switch. It's not going to show me anything, but I am curious. Just your idle. Sometimes they go to other countries. Oh, for the monarchy? Yeah. Your case not popular in my country. Only one store has it. Dang. Okay, at least it's cheaper than the O2 version. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It is unique. That's for sure. Okay. So let's try to take this apart. These screws are shorter. At least they're easy to tell apart. I wonder how the ultralight mice are nowadays. If they're... Maybe the screws are like different sizes. Like if they use smaller, fewer, and lighter screws or something to save weight. Does that matter at those weights and scales and whatever? Okay, so I think those are the 4 screws. There's like a grommet for the cable up here. And I should be able to pull that free. This should come loose. Maybe not. It looks like the scroll wheel is... Oh, the encoder for the scroll wheel. Okay. So maybe that's enough room for me to kind of peek. So I'm looking at the back side of the switch. And it's 3 pins, which makes sense for a normally open switch, I think. Turn that off. I was considering if I could maybe... It wouldn't gain me anything to unsolder this switch and move it to the other side. So I'm trying to think of other things that we could do here. I was kind of hoping it would just come back to life, which is obviously very hopeful. I don't know if I put like a drop of oil in it, if it's just like gummed up, or if maybe it really is worn out and the actual internal return spring is messed up, because it's not clicking. You heard earlier, it's really not clicking. That's a bummer. I actually really like this mouse. I don't know if you can even get them new. I bought a Death Adder, I think, wireless version, but it's a different shape. I kind of thought it was going to be the same shape, but it's a different shape. And I appreciate, it was my first wireless, like nicer wireless mouse, and I do appreciate it. It was really, it's still a good mouse. But I just really like the shape of this one. Okay, is there anything else going on here? Seems like it returns pretty well on its own. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the actual shell. I guess there's little Teflon pads, which you can't quite see from that angle. So I think these black squares are little Teflon pads, just like the rubber feet, or not the rubber feet, the Teflon feet on the mouse. And that's what rides on the actual little switch rocker. So I'm kind of bummed, kind of at an impasse here. Let me see behind me if I have any oil. I was a bike mechanic in a prior life, so putting oil on things is like my solution. But let's see. I do. I have some Marvel Air Tool oil for air guns, which is it's a thinner lubricant, which you would need. You'd need like a penetrating thin lubricant. I imagine it's probably conductive though, so maybe that's not good. What if we had, oh, right here. Look at me go. So I have these Q-tips for cleaning things. I wonder if I could use that to apply the oil. This would be such a weird fix. Thanks for the emotes, Bong. Keeping the viewership alive. Silly Twitch. Arnold Schwarzenegger is promoting a grocery store tool brand. That's funny. That's cool though. Oh, from Germany. So I'm assuming it's a name brand. Okay, what do German tool brands think? Frost. They make saw blades. Okay, what's the Festool? I think is German. On YouTube, the tool's called Parkside. I'll have to look at that. That sounds funny. So it must be recent then, where he's a little bit on in years. Did I mess up this? Scroll wheel feels weird. Let me put these small screws back because the scroll wheel isn't working right. What's the weather like in wherever you are in Denmark? Here it is 60s Fahrenheit. So that would be 22-ish, I'd say, Celsius. Low humidity. It's going fall for us. So it's kind of windy, kind of breezy, dry air. The leaves are starting to change, and a nice cool breeze. It's been lovely. I did a bunch of yard work today. Kind of just went until I couldn't handle it anymore. Just got tired. But I had some cleaning to do, so I'm glad I waited, honestly. It's been an eyesore, but I'm really glad I waited because it worked out. It saved me a lot of time. Okay, the scroll wheel's working better now. So this is kind of cool. I might be able to show you guys this. So the notches on the scroll wheel. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. That's a 3X. I've got a 5. Grab this 7X. These are like the cheapest little eye loops. But, you know, if it works, it works. So that's maybe a little bit better. So the little 2 black plates there, adjacent to the spindle, it has teeth on it. On those plates, and then there's a metal piece just to the left with a little bend in it, and those teeth click into each, or the metal plate clicks between each tooth, and that's how you're getting the notched feel on the scroll wheel. So you can tell when it's just one click. Let's try to go 10X here. You can see just a little bit better there, just barely. That's kind of cool. And then the way I think it actually reads is this. Of course, I've taken the macro lens away, but there's a little PCB here, a little ribbon cable, and then something goes inside. I'm assuming that's like a Hall effect sensor, which reads changes in magnetic field. And then I'm assuming there's some kind of encoder on the actual wheel so it can tell that there's a change of movement. I'm guessing that's how that works. Okay, we're going to try to put the tiniest drop of oil on this. It's a bit risky because I really don't know how this switch works, but I've put a drop on a large Q-tip here, and I've saturated the end, and I'm going to try to basically squeeze the oil back. This is such a stupid way to try to fix this. Really, I should be using a silicone lubricant. That's a dry lubricant. It doesn't stay wet. It's the actual silicone material that gets spread around, and it's low friction silicone to silicone. I doubt it's probably not conductive. Okay, so we're changing tactics. I'm trying to put a drop of oil on the stick side of this cleaning swab, we'll call it. So I have a little drop, and now I'm trying to place that drop right on top of the green switch. Okay, so I've put a little bit of oil on there, and now I'm going to try to cycle it. Here, let's go, we're going to go ASMR mode. Okay, gain is set just past 45, so we're going to turn this way up. And then we're going to turn, turn the noise gate all the way down. Welcome to Channel 5 North, or better done right on YouTube today. We are breaking down electronics in ASMR mode. And I've done this now because I want you to hear these clicks. still clipping even when I talk, so I'm going to move a little ways. But what's really exciting, I'm getting the tiniest click from our other switch now. I think you can hear that. I can hear it. So here's the right click. Very loud. The left click. It's the tiniest little click. But it's there. And it wasn't there a minute ago. Bong. You need to get back in chat. Because it's free real estate. That's an inside joke. Okay, that's enough ASMR. That's really hard to do. I'm kind of impressed. It takes a lot of effort to talk quietly. Okay, just making sure that wasn't anything important for the moment. Okay, so that's exciting. We've gained maybe a tiny bit of functionality back from this switch. Just the tiniest click. So now I'm debating, do I put more oil? Or do I just sit here and click it a whole bunch of times? Apologies. Let's go full screen here so we can see this. We have a Banaviator here. Okay. There we go. Barack Obama, that is a fantastic idea. Baby oil is mineral oil, I believe, which is non-conductive. That's a great idea. I wish I had some. This is probably not going to say what it is. It's got a cancer warning, so it's probably pretty good stuff. It's just a thin air tool oil, but it's a great idea over on the YouTube chat. So I'm cycling the button here, and we did, as you heard during the ASMR session, get the tiniest click. And like I said, now I'm debating, do I add more oil and potentially ruin it further, or do I live with it? Because it really didn't seem to be clicking to begin with. I guess I could put the shell on. Ooh, why does that feel so terrible? I guess it's those wires. So if I can kind of, okay, that's right click. Ooh, this may not work very well. Right click's working, you can hear that. There's just nothing on the left click. So sad. I don't think they make these. I would, honestly, I'd almost get another one. But I know getting like a used one, it may already just have the same problems. So I think I'm going to go full out here, and we're going to add a little bit more oil. It seemed to have an effect, as stupid as it sounds. Ooh, that's a lot. All right. Here we go. So yeah, the mineral oil, the baby oil is a great idea because it would be non-conductive. Pardon the alarms. So now that's kind of, that really is saturated. I don't think it's having an effect. I think this switch is just worn out. You could salvage a switch. This is a Razer branded switch, so it's probably custom to where you can't buy a different one. It has the tiniest click. And the spring back seems decent, but it's mushy by comparison. It's like the first half of the click isn't there. So kind of curious. I'm gonna try to clean it up, just the loose oil. We'll put it back together and it's gonna be what it will be. So we need to reconnect our, this is the lights. We can do that the right way. There we go. And then our DPI switch. That's connected. Okay, we'll slide the shell down. There we go. I am getting more action than I was. So we're gonna roll with that. We'll just try to put this together as is. I've got the 3 screws, so I'm not missing any. And for those that missed it earlier, the Death Adder Elite, its 2 upper screws are hidden under the top skid, the top skate, little strip of Teflon. There's just 3. Turn up my threshold a little bit more. Block out some of that fan noise. Okay, moment of truth coming up. Got those on. It's just the faintest click. There's not a lot of feedback, but the travel is the same. It feels mushy, like it doesn't spring back as quickly, but I can feel the faintest click, and I could not feel any click before. It felt seized up is how it felt, which is why we put oil on it. This is not the type of situation. You don't just put oil on electronics. It's not a mechanical device. Okay, so we have right click, I think. Let me go to maybe the desktop. Yeah, right click is working. Is left click working? I think it might be. And it wasn't before. I had to stop using this mouse because it wasn't. It's really bizarre. It's like using, well, not even a magic mouse. Ooh, purple. Nice. Okay. So I've adjusted the DPI. So that's working. That's nice. It's really weird using this mouse, not having the left click. There's no physical feedback and there's no audio feedback. It feels short and mushy. I don't know if I can handle that. because they're just so... But maybe it's better than... It feels a lot better to use in hand compared to the other mouse. So maybe we leave it. We may leave this. It felt really bad to game on like a $5 mouse. I felt like it was such a disservice to my gear acquisition syndrome of years and years of buying computer hardware. Okay. Well, we've had some effect on it, and we at least took it apart and got it on camera. So we may try to use that for a little while. Okay, we do have another mouse. This is a BenQ Zowie EC2 or 1, A or B. I don't know which one this is, but it's this profile. So it's like the, you know, the mid-rise kind of palm grip if it was bigger. This mouse, the scroll wheel, is very inconsistent. Ooh, dang. We may have a problem with this Razer mouse. Yeah, I think the spring is broken in that micro switch. So we may be like partially clicking. And it just seemed like it clicked when I wasn't intending to click. That would be a no-go if that's the case. But I'm curious if the switch just comes back on its own. There's absolutely no reason. Like rationally, there's no reason for it to do that. Man, kind of a bummer. I love that thing. Okay, so this other mouse, which clicks great, it does not scroll. It kind of just skips around like it's telling it to move, but then it never fully gets there. It's like it kind of moves and then it goes back. So what I'm thinking is we maybe try to take this mouse apart and see if we can get an eyeball on that, because you need a scroll wheel. It'd be a broken mouse otherwise. I have 3 mice here and I don't want to use any of them. So I'm going to try to unplug this mouse. Oh, we got oil somewhere. Hold up. Is that from there, or maybe it just... I don't want that to get everywhere. So I'm going to sneak behind the streaming PC and unplug this mouse. You're going to see my armpit here. How unprofessional. That's it. Is it? Yes. Okay. So that's unplugged. So I'm guessing this mouse is just going to have its screws underneath. And we do have little tabs, little cutouts. Nice of them to do that. I don't think I've ever worn out the feet on a mouse, but I'm sure they would have you covered if you ever did. Has anybody here ever worn out the feet of a mouse? Maybe I just don't keep mice that long. Okay. No luck yet. I kind of expected it to be like the last mouse. And this feels really... The adhesive's really good, but it feels like it's... I don't know if it's a thinner... foot. Ooh, Okay. Whew. Found something that looks like an injection mark, like a molding mark. Not a screw. I really expected a screw. So this may be harder to take apart than I thought. But I'm sure, you know, they're going to manufacture how they're going to manufacture. Oh, I feel a screw in the bottom. So let's take that off. Try not to separate the adhesive from the Teflon. That may not go well. To put it back. Okay, there is a screw in the bottom here. Ooh. Different size. Let's go for next size up. There we go. Maybe it's one screw at the back and then plastic clips at the front. Kind of makes sense of a way to do it. Okay, so the rear has come loose. Interesting. I don't want to force anything yet. It's not just popping free. Okay, there's some progress. Okay, it is a plastic clip. So there's a plastic clip to either side of your, where the cable comes out, where the USB cable comes out. Okay. That got it free, and the whole top shell is its own piece. So that came out. So there's nothing really to worry about there. It's a nice clean piece of plastic. Really good casting. Surprised by that. Okay, looking in here. There's some ribbon cables. So I'm guessing they're doing that for weight, instead of the wires that they maybe would traditionally use. And our USB is kind of flopped out there. Let's see if this is difficult to take out. There's a lot of flex on this main board. It's not very well screwed down, but that's kind of to be expected. This may not be worth taking out, but we're here. There. Okay. So hopefully I didn't damage that. It was starting to pull the actual outer part, so maybe I was gripping the wrong thing. So I'm just taking a look in here. Maybe I'll get you guys a closer look. So there's ribbon cables. There's the main board. That was the USB plug right by my thumbnail. The PCB seems to be thin. Thinner than maybe a typical one would be. It's probably for weight savings. We've got our switches with the two blue there. And then we have our wheel, our scroll wheel. And on this mouse, that is our culprit. That is what we've got going wrong here. So I think it seems to scroll fine by feel. It's clicking just fine, so it doesn't seem like it's gummed up. There's a little bit of fuzz on the side. So what I've kind of assumed is maybe it just got dirty. So that's honestly, that's a lot of things that break, is they just get dirty. This might be an optical encoder. And the reason I am thinking that, I can show you. Later this week, I should have a better solution for things like this. I've got I'm doing a webcam review, so I have new webcams on the way, and I will keep whatever makes sense to keep. All right, center of that side of the screen, you can see kind of a clear piece of plastic. I believe that is a laser. I think that's a lens that redirects the laser. Then on the other side, that black piece of plastic, kind of encased in the white nylon plastic, I believe that's an optical receiver. And then on the side of our scroll wheel, we have these notches. I believe those intermittently block light and let light through. And that's how this can track movement to know it's actually clicked over. So when I took this apart, right here, of course I've taken it out, there was some fuzz, and there's actually some fuzz here. That might be the same fuzz. This is not necessary to get a macro shot of, but you're gonna get it. I put it on the black background here. Yeah, you can barely see it there. So it just looks like some fuzz out of like a pillow or fleece fuzz. Nothing nefarious. But I wonder if that was interfering with the light transmission. Potentially. So what we might do is plug this mouse in before we put it back together and see if it works. Because obviously that would tell us if we fixed it. There's more fuzz on this side, so I'm going to try to remove that, but these tweezers aren't working for that. Try these detail tweezers. It's working better. That's kind of a design flaw. If you have an optical system, but obviously you have, you know, gaps because you have a wheel that's spinning, has to spin freely, you're gonna get fuzz in there and Dorito dust, like Katie was laughing about earlier. Oh man. Okay, I don't think this will be visible. I'll try. No sense in not trying. Man, can I hold all of this all at once? This will be some quality content if I can. Okay, I'm gonna try to hold a light in one hand with the macro lens and try to show you what I saw. All this freaking lens flare. Of course that's not gonna work. There. Is that better? Better? Okay. So if you look past the encoder, or sorry, the laser that we think is there, there's a hair hanging down, and it's like a thicker hair than the little bitty fluffy fuzz that we've been dealing with. And I'm curious if maybe that has been sitting in front of the laser and just moves back and forth. Potentially that's been our problem. I'm gonna try to pull that out. Now I need the loop in my eye to be able to see this properly. I'm gonna have to get those big glasses that you can hold, but let's try this. I kind of look like Mad Eye Moody. All right. It looks like a cat hair. Wow. Holy crap. I think I actually got that, and my left eye is way out of focus. So that's what I just pulled out. And you can see that. That's much bigger. That is cool. So I think that might be a little bitty cat hair. Yeah, it is. It looks like my Winnie's hair. Okay. So then... Oh, there's more. The gift that keeps on giving. Yes, it does, Katie. Do you have cats? Where it's like a solid white at the bottom and then it transitions to different colors in a few spots. At least that's my cat. I've pulled hair like that out of my eyeballs before. Back in COVID times, I was considered an essential worker, so I still went to work. And we had homemade masks because you couldn't get the N95s yet. And we washed them, and I think it got cat hair on it from our clothes. And I exhaled one morning, and one of the cat hairs went into my eye. And I had no idea what was going on. I thought I scratched my eyeball or something. I even made a doctor's visit and went through that whole thing. And like the morning before going to the doctor, I'd been looking, like, you know, pulling your eyelid to the side and like looking. Obviously it's hard to do for yourself, but my wife helped too, and she never saw anything, but it seemed like it migrated finally to somewhere where I could see it, and it was just a cat hair. It just went up into my eyelid somewhere I couldn't catch it, and it took a few days. Kind of like a splinter. Like you'll get a splinter and you like try to pull it out and it breaks, and now you can't get at it unless you kind of dig around. But if you just leave it for a few days, your body kind of pushes it out. Maybe that's what happened. Okay, looking in there, I'm not seeing. Or you know what? It makes a lot of sense that a mouse would have cat hair in it. Okay, if we take that sentence apart, it's not the animal mouse eating a cat, which is how that sentence sounded. This gaming mouse, of course, it would have cat hair in it because you pet your cat and then you go and use your mouse. So you probably have cat fur on your fingers. So that makes a lot of sense. So consider this the Zowie mouse repair. Any optically encoded scroll wheel is vulnerable to cat hair. What an interesting finding. I was not expecting that. A cat moved into my granddad's house a few years ago, and we just got her a litter box because she didn't want to go home to her owner. Oh my god. So I had a cat growing up named Spell. He was such a lovely cat, but in the wintertime, we'd let him inside and he would be warm. Like his fur was warm. So he clearly was hanging out with somebody else because his fur should have been cool at the very least. So he had someone in the neighborhood was taking care of him. At least didn't steal him away or anything. But yeah, that makes sense. Cat and mouse, didn't even think of that. Yeah, once I said it, I was like, for those that are just listening that don't know the context, that could sound really weird, having cat hair in a mouse. Yes, cats are so funny. I love their little personalities. They're all different. Even twins. They're all different. But they all seem to be motivated by just similar things, and they all seem to be just a little bit mischievous. And it's a wonderful personality. I like people like that too. So I wonder if that's just when people are cat people or not, is if they like that type of personality. Kind of like standoffish, but can be super cuddly if you earn their favor, I guess. So I was going to put this back together enough to test it, but I'm confident that we fixed it because we pulled a big old piece of cat hair that seemed to be right in front of the laser for that optical encoder. So I'm just going to put this all back together and we're going to try it out. The cat that moved into your granddad's is kind of evil, but we love her. She's got character. I know, cats can be evil. I knew one. I don't know if he got hungry. He did overeat a little bit, so maybe he was kind of hungry and wanting food, but he was just the shop cat. I worked at a bike shop at the time, and I was like the one person that kind of was like the cat whisperer, I guess, because I grew up with 3 cats, and I could like calm him down and tell him off, and he would kind of listen to me. Probably because I like followed up, like, you know, if you're bad, you will hear a tone change in my voice. If you're still bad, then I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna come over and you're gonna get a little scruff. But yeah, he could be naughty. He would start chasing his owner around, the shop owner, sometimes, and she's like, "Stop it!" And then I would get involved. He's like, "Okay, fine." But yeah, they are funny. So you got your cat a litter box. Is it an indoor cat or an outdoor cat? I'm guessing it makes sense that it'd be indoor, partially, to give it a litter box. Otherwise, it would just go outside. I'm trying to get this shell back together. This is kind of interesting. They have these two plastic clips at the front, and trying to... Okay, that worked. A decent amount of down pressure, and then kind of pulling back seem to kind of slot those like you're hooking in a way. Okay, so we've got the front, and it looks like the USB plug that runs to the back is kind of protruding through the side. So I'm going to try to gently push that in. Don't know if that's actually going... Okay, that did close. That looks good. So I think just kind of mentally double checking that I've gotten everything inside put back together. I think it was just that one thing that we detached, the USB. So put this fairly long screw in. There we go. And then work this back. I'm going to try to smooth this out best I can, because that probably won't wear very evenly otherwise, but it may just be how it is. I'll use the back side of the spudger. Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, now the real challenge of all this is trying to plug this mouse back in. Maybe I get lucky, but I can't actually see behind. So I'll be right back. Let me actually switch views, so you're not looking at my armpit. Oh, of course that mouse won't work. Go to the top down. Okay. So I think I just dropped the cable earlier. I did. So I'm going to pull it back out to the front. Yeah. Caught on everything. Oh, it has one of those ferrite. Those the interference things. What are those for? They block like inadvertent signals on the USB cable, and it's just like a cheaper, something that you see on cheaper USB cables. It's a little frustrating to see that. I am fumbling behind this computer trying to get that USB plugged. I think I got it. No lights on this mouse, so can't tell. Okay, it's plugged in. Okay. Moment of truth, guys. I'm gonna go to my chat window here. Does it scroll? I fixed it! Let's go to main cam here. So this optical, we found out it's a laser based light and light reader, little photo sensor, and then there's like a wagon wheel on the side of the scroll wheel, and it blocks light and it lets light through, so it knows when it's moving. It hadn't been working. It would just move the page like this, and it would sometimes move it, sometimes it would just like move and go right back. And we found there was a piece of cat hair. There's actually all kinds of dust in there. But that makes sense. If you're petting your cat, then you're going to grabbed the mouse, and we found there was cat hair in the mouse. But it's working now. So now I do, out of these 3 mice, this one, and this one is now usable. This one always worked, but it's cheap. And then we tried to fix the switch on this one here. It's just not clicking the same. So I think this one's donezo. The Razer Death Adder Elite. But this Zowie mouse from BenQ is working great now. I don't know if this is the EC1 or the EC2, A or the B. There's different models and shapes and sizes, but it's the one that kind of tapers thinner at the front. I think this is the smaller, so this is maybe an A, and I can't remember if the shape of the EC1 or the EC2, but it was a good mouse while I had it. I was really happy with it. Just ended up going wireless at some point. I was looking for a better shape too. So, okay, we did fix a mouse, and I don't know if the GPU is fixed 100%, but at least it looks, I'm always looking for the suspicious thing and fixing that, and that's kind of how it builds up confidence for me. So once I saw this was light based for that scroll wheel, and we saw there was cat hair in there, I was like, that kind of looks like our problem. I'm fairly confident here. So I think we will wrap it up there. I need to take apart the retro stream PC and throw the GPU in there and do some testing in case I want to make a fuller video out of this. I have been recording locally with OBS, so we get better quality than any of the streaming platforms. I had thought the stream to YouTube was good because I could give it like 60 megabits a second, 60,000 kilobytes, and it only used like 10 of those. It looked like dog shit, honestly. So I won't be able to use any of those as a backup for what I got going here. So I've got a little setup with a local recording now. Happy to have that. Alrighty, thank you for joining me, everyone. We had a few people chatting. We had Dan Tith on the YouTube chat, and we were honored by Barack Obama. That's hilarious to me because I have a friend who had the handle Michelle Obama for the longest time. So I could have been getting trolled by my friend there. That would be a really, really funny joke. And then we had KT Etak. We also had a new chatter, new visitor, Link4Hunter out of Denmark. And we had the Honorable Bong Skapi out of... Hang on. Why am I blanking? Not New Zealand. South Africa. No. ZA. She says Russian and ZA. I'm going to look that up because I know better. I should know this. South Africa. Yep, ZA is the country abbreviation for South Africa. So our friend out of South Africa also joined us. So wonderful to have you guys in chat. Some quick reminders for what we've got going. So I've got a webcam test going on. I've ordered I think the final webcams that I want to compare. So those of you that are interested on my YouTube channel, Better Done Right, I am going to release a webcam comparison, but the focus of it is to prove that you can do a lot with good lighting and a cheap webcam. You can get really, really far with that, and we're going to explore some of the alternatives there. But to prove it, we'll have some nicer webcams to play with. So that is coming down the pike to the YouTube channel. So everybody have a great evening. Thanks for keeping me company and going through this adventure with me with these different pieces of hardware, and I will catch you all in the next stream. Have a good night.